Friday night, I want a Chippy Tea. Chippy Tea, Chippy Tea, I want a Chippy Tea. Oh, you keep giving me posh, no, she don't agree with me. I don't want lobster thermidor with raspberry Kool-Aid. It's Friday night, I'm within me rights, I want a Chippy Tea.
Right, here we go then. So, welcome to episode 84 of Chippy Tea Podcast. What is the Chippy Tea Podcast? It's your chance, your opportunity to catch up and listen in to a podcast that happens regularly between me, Tony P at Palm Print, and
Danny D, Flip and Sweet Print Co.
And this week we are joined by a special guest, Dean
guest.
Smith from Pyramid Screen Products, also known as
shabba.
I had to do it, guys. Had to be done.
How many
Mr.
rehearsals did you
Lava
have?
Man. So, welcome to the podcast, Dean.
Thank you.
It is, as you can see, quite unscripted. We do go off on tangents now and again. But obviously, it seems as though we've got what is Mr. UK's Emulsion Guru, or Mr. Lava Man.
You keep calling me that.
Now forever be known to everybody wherever you walk into. Next shop you go into, I'm going to arrange for it to be on the PA system straight away.
It's like walking into the room. Yeah?
It's going to be flashing lights and everything, yeah. So what we thought we'd do is we'd have we've had a DTG and a DTF sort of episode, and so we thought we'd do an emulsion episode.
Okay.
We're working
So
through the experts.
what we've done is we've come up with a couple of questions between me and Danny, and we're going to basically grill you, sort of like Blockbuster style.
Be gentle. It's the end of the day.
No, and it's real. Hey, listen, it could go anywhere. We'll probably end up talking about fishing and just forget about emulsion, so it'll be fine.
Let's talk about your dolls and your doll food.
No, we don't talk. We don't talk about the dolls in this
Look at
hotel
here.
where I am. I've never seen anything like it, and I'm down your neck of woods as well. I
No,
know
you're
it's- I'm down south, past Watford Gap. So anywhere past Watford Gap, classed as down south. So yeah, we're hoping to not upset the dolls. I'm in Margate. I'm in the most eclectic hotel I've ever been in. It's a museum and a hotel. But that doesn't mean there's a separate museum hall. It means the corridors are just randomly filled with,
No
I
bells.
don't want to use the word tat, but I'm going to use the word
Ooh, careful, they're
historical
listening.
items.
They're listening.
And right outside my hotel room is a collection of children's dolls.
Let me in, it's Chucky.
A collection of children's dolls that are, the only way I can describe them is creepy as fuck.
Right.
And I checked
Horror
in at
hotel.
night as well. So I checked in at like 11:30 p.m. So I didn't really take much notice. I'm dragging my case up. It's got a 127-year-old lift, which you can just fit two people in. No suitcases. One person in a suitcase or two people. One of those, with gates that you've got to close. Gates. Good old Otis lift. And and I dragged my suitcase in, and then I never thought anything more. And then next morning, when I got up, opened the door to go for breakfast, I'm like, what the fuck? Who put them there? So, yeah. It's a different place. But it's
You're
nice
not
and it's
kidding.
sunny and it's by sea, and I've got Steve and the Seagulls join me, so we're all right.
I'm not sure how to state
Oh, wait.
but there you go.
How are you, Dean, mate?
I'm all right,
This
thank
is
you.
your episode. This is
Again?
your episode, not your turn. This is your episode, mate. Not Tony's stories.
I'm all right at the moment. We'll see how you guys start grilling me. And
Oh, we're
No,
not
we've got
grilling you.
some-
We want to know more shit that we don't know.
I'm sure
Yeah.
you know it all. Emulsion guru. I'm just a screen maker in a suit.
Screen maker
Well,
in a suit.
let's-
I quite like that as the description. Screen maker in a suit.
That's it.
Because everywhere I watch you go, and I've worked for you a few times, I've followed you into places, and you followed me into places. You turn up and you do all your demos. You're always in a three-piece suit, and you're always spotlessly clean. Honestly, where I'm working today, as soon as I walk in at 8 o'clock, by 8:03, I've got baby wipes out, and I've got ink everywhere.
Yeah, I know the feeling. It's sort of something now I'm looking at changing, saying that I need to be a bit more probably casual in the sense of like jeans, sweatshirt, stuff like this, and especially in the textile trade. Because everywhere I go, everyone says to me, "Why are you in the suit?" Even I think when I come to you, Danny, you was like, you dressed like that. I was like, yeah.
I was worried for you. Have you seen my shop?
In my job,
Christ.
yeah.
I was just frightened
Well,
I'd get a dry cleaning bill at the end of it, that's all.
I know someone that did send a dry cleaning bill in because he'd got stink on his Armani suit when he walked through a place, but that's a different thing.
Oh,
Oh, mine.
So we will start.
Mine and Marks and Spencer's washables. It's so much.
We will start with a bit of a backstory, Dean. So, how come you ended up in the dark and dismal world of screen printing?
what possessed you?
Am I in? Am I?
Yeah.
You in?
Sorry. Right. So basically, I started in the trade back in 1986. So some 38 years ago.
A year before me.
Yeah, 38 years.
It's 2 years before I was born.
Thanks for that. Yeah, so going back, I mean, I wanted to be a graphic designer. And at the time, I was leaving school. I think we had one computer between sort of 500 pupils. So all my work was sort of hand-drawn. And back then I couldn't get a job because I had a great portfolio, but didn't have the experience. And a job came up at a company called Adelco, which everyone in the textile trade probably knows. And it said artwork design. So I got the job, and I spent sort of 2 months in a poxy little wooden shed outside with a little heater. This was in the October, scraping them, the old frames, cleaning the mesh off, and getting them ready for the restretching guys. So I was
down
2
at
months
Bournemouth.
down in Borden, Farnham. They were in Farnham at the time, and so I spent a couple of months doing that, and said, look, I want more than this. This is not for me. So they moved me inside, and that's where I learned to start some sort of meshes, screen stretching, and things like this. And there was a great guy there who, I'm hoping he's still alive, I don't really know, a guy called Steve Rance, and he was in charge of all the sort of screen making and stencil making. And I'm going back in the day, back 30 years ago when a lot of people weren't making their own stencils. So a lot of stencils were coming in. We were making probably 500, 600, 700 stencils a week. For Beecham's, Johnson.
For other people.
Yeah.
So people would send you artwork,
Yeah,
usually by post, not by computer, by
we
post, and say,
we
we need to put this on a screen.
Yeah, totally.
Wow.
So we were producing, credit card companies, because back then they didn't do it in-house. So we had all the Visa logos we were producing, real fine definition on capillary films. We were coating screens to sort of 500-600 micron by hand. For the Ministry of Defence, it was interesting stuff, and I took into it. I loved it, I really enjoyed doing it, and I progressed sort of over a period of time to sort of running the department. Reps would then come into me, and I used to think, they used to talk shit because they come in and this product does this product does that, and I'm like, leave it to me, we'll test it, we'll know, and to this day that stood me in good stead because I go into the marketplace thinking more of a production point of view rather than a sales guy.
Yeah, because
I've
done it. Yeah,
I spent 9 years there, and then
at Adelco. Do you know? I didn't know you worked at Adelco.
Yeah.
All this time I've known you, I never knew you started at Adelco.
9 years. So I learned to sort of hand print there and print some of the machines and bits and pieces like this. Learned a bit of the textile, but I then went to a company called CSL, Coated Screens Limited, back in the day, and I was a salesman on the road, and it was back then. I've come from an environment surrounded by loads of people to all of a sudden being thrown onto a road with lots of like little paper leads in a box of areas and go and knock doors. And you are going out at 6 in the morning.
A to Z street map.
That's the one.
The only way you could find your way around was an A to Z. You couldn't just Google it, could you?
Have then. You didn't have mobile phones. Well, actually, mobile phones just started coming out, I think. So, again, when you look back, you think, bloody hell. And going from that environment of being around people and having lots of people to talk to the point of like getting out the door at 6, knocking doors all day long, cold calling, and people telling you to bugger off because they used the likes of the mighty Sericol back then and stuff like this, because that was a brand name, wasn't it then?
Sericol was the main one.
It was huge, yeah. They were so good.
Sericol and Coates. I think Sericol and Coates were the two big chemical companies that you had to buy from. Nobody knew of anybody else. Wilflix hadn't come across yet.
No, and they manufactured all their own.
It was either Sericol or Coates.
Yeah.
Coates Lorilleux, you were called.
And they had reps in every corner of the country, didn't they? I mean, they were everywhere. So, Yeah, I spent many a day knocking the doors and 20, 30 calls a day over a few months. And gradually people started to liken to you and say, okay, look, we'll give you an opportunity. And it was only that I fell into good opportunities where my background of understanding how to make screens, how to solve problems, how to do things like this stood me in the good stead of winning a lot of business. Because, these companies were then...
It's obvious.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's obvious when a sales guy comes in and he ain't got a bleeding clue what he's talking about because he's never held a squeegee or he's never held a coating trough, and you can tell straight away. Most of us can, and we sort of dismiss them straight away. So, yeah, okay, off you go. Bye.
Do you think times have changed? Do you think for the better? Do you think it's easier to sell now? Or do you think back in the day, cold calling?
I think back in the day, because you had so many more customers, you could go into an industrial estate, and you get out your car and just sniff the air, and you could smell the solvent fumes coming across the industrial estate. You knew. Sorry, the dog just something to say hello. You knew
you were in Leicester.
Yeah, yeah. You knew there were screen printers on the estate, and I think once you start breaking the mould, you could go to an estate and you'd have probably 10, 15 customers within a couple of mile radius. So going back to now, I think it's quite hard. It's a changing time now. It's a changing time for sure. And if you don't know what you're doing, I think you should struggle realistically.
I've got this strange feeling.
It's hard, isn't it? Knocking on someone's door and going, do you want to buy my product? And they're like, well, I already buy this product from someone else.
And there's a lot of good products out there. When you look back, there was a range of products then. But how they've improved now, there's not. Every company has good emulsions. Every company has good capillary films, good chemicals. It's just how you position those for each individual customer you visit and go to. So right, this.
So how do you end up at Pyramid?
And then so coated screens. I then left. I was there for 5 years. 5 years. Then I left the industry. Actually, I went into a company in Oxford, which was a book and journal publisher. And they wanted to set up a colour management team of selling, the weekly magazines and colour areas. I'd done 4 months of it, and I didn't enjoy it. You were getting blocked at what you're bringing in, or we can't do it. We've got a journal on, we've got this on. I'm like, this isn't for me. You're killing me as a salesman. I'm trying to sell stuff. You can't do it. So then I sort of left that, and then that's when I met Alan from Pyramid, obviously Alan Powley. And that was, 20 odd years ago now, 26, 27 years. So
wow.
And that's where I've been ever since. So
wow,
up to present day.
So now you're basically the man on the road who's in charge of emulsion, chemicals, cleaning as well, I believe.
Yeah,
you're a guy to go if you need any cleaning help. You're the guy to go to. I know you came to visit me, and I was struggling with a couple of things really. I was looking to completely refresh my entire inventory of cleaning products and my emulsion. And we settled on, let me get this right, Plus Aqua. And we've got the whole range of cleaning chemicals.
Does that make you Aquaman?
Yeah. Did you make me Aquaman? I don't know. Let's go back to it. If you do another advert, I'll try and get an Aquaman song, but let's see.
Yeah.
Not the Barbie
I
girl.
kind of regret getting
it. Barbie girl?
He wishes he looked like Aquaman.
Yeah, you're telling me.
And you came down and we went through the whole process, didn't we? Start to finish.
We did.
Cleaning, completely reclaiming, degreasing, ink removal. And the best part about that is, you like Tony says earlier, you came suited up, clean screens, got in there dirty with a scrubbing brush, and somehow came out absolutely spotless, and I came out piss covered in ink and stuff. So how that works, I don't know.
Dean's one of them guys, isn't he? He can do it and comes out absolutely spotless. I just walk through a place and get covered in ink. Yeah, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, when you look back, back in the day when I used to make all these screens a week, we were reclaiming customers' frames as well, and we were using some of the products out there back then, Preg and Paste and Preg and C4, and you come out of a room floating.
No,
which was
I tried some of that stuff once. It nearly melted my frame.
There's still stuff out there.
Completely destroyed them.
There's stuff out there.
Still find it. It's like sodium hydrochloride stuff. It's just it's the stuff where it frightens me to death, because all I can think of is if you get that in your eye, you're not seeing again for the rest of your life.
No, totally burns. Yeah, there's lots of alkaline paste. There's still lots of stuff like it now.
Yeah.
But it does
I've
work.
got a
They're
tub in
getting
here.
better, though.
Yeah, but it does
They're
work.
getting better. They're getting softer.
Yeah. So we come to your place, Danny, and hopefully everything's working well, is it?
Yeah, well, testament to yourself. Absolutely. Everything that we went through, I stuck with, and I've never touched it since.
Good.
Not only that, I've passed that information on to Annie, who's my new screen goblin. She runs a screen room single-handedly,
Okay.
start to finish, exposing, reclaiming, washing, degreasing, etc. She came in, and within a week or two, I'd sort of showed her the ropes, and she's never put her foot wrong since.
Good.
And I think that's also a testament to yourself, because you've put the right products in my shop that do the job, the correct techniques. There are certain lessons that I picked up. I mean, the important one for me, one that stood out was less is more. There's a reason there are ratios on those bottles, and you dilute your solutions.
Yeah, to what they're supposed
rather
to
than
be.
just chucking them in. And actually, if you follow the instructions, they actually work better.
Yeah. Well, I do actually have another chemical which I'll show you, which is better than the one you're using now.
Yeah,
We've
cool.
improved that.
Look forward to
So,
seeing that. Yep. And then we even went through the exposure settings. A good tip I think we can pass on. We sort of worked out on the day. It's quite a standard practice. I think a lot of people use this technique when they're using an exposure calculator. They'll fold a piece of tin foil and then do the step test. So you cover part of your exposure calculator, do an exposure, add another 30 seconds, move it down.
That played
But we used it played havoc, didn't it? Because the tin foil bounced for light everywhere.
it.
Yeah, and that's quite common practice. I know lots of shops who have done that in the past, and we learned no, that's a really bad move. So use a piece of black card, and that technique will work really well.
Cardboard, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Absorb the light, don't reflect it. Yeah.
So, let's hit with some technical questions.
Yeah, let's go with some. Let's go quick fire. Yeah, ready? Let's go. No. So I see what baffles me. So a lot of these questions, Dean, are questions that I want answers to.
Okay.
Now, bear in mind, I've been in this as long as you, since 1987, but there are still some things that I don't quite understand.
Same as that. I'm the same
So
as you.
I'm going to start with the sort of like the big one.
Yeah.
What are the main types of emulsion? So I think there are three.
There's three.
I've got them down as three. If you could explain the difference between the big three main different
There's
bits
three,
of
but
emulsion.
there is a fourth, effectively.
Yeah.
So what you've got your diazo.
Yeah.
Which the diazo emulsion is a two-part system. So you have an emulsion part and you have the sensitizer part. And they're generally good for only one type of ink. You don't really get a diazo emulsion that does work for, say, a water-based and a solvent-based. So that's where the diazo-based goes. They're generally the cheaper end of the market as well. So people want them. The slower exposing. And you don't really see too many of them out there nowadays. I think they're sort of... really,
Am I right in saying they were the first emulsions?
by far. By far. Yeah, they were the first emulsion where you introduced a sensitizer that would actually then say you've got a UV light product by mixing this in to give you screen stencil. Okay. Then you've got your dual cure. So your dual cure again, you add a diazo into it, but effectively what the dual cure is, it comes as a sort of...
How many dogs have you got?
Oh no, that's the doorbell at the front there. I've got two French bulldogs. Yeah, two French bulldogs. One's sitting in here now because he's sulking, and the other one's in the house being feral, like Smith. So you've got the dual cure. The dual cure is it's like a pre-sensitized emulsion coming to you, but it's got a secondary sensitizer. Okay,
Right.
So when you actually put that in, it then gives you the ability to run water-based, solvent-based ink systems.
So a bit of a catch-all, this will do everything.
Pretty much so, yeah. Dual cures pretty much do everything. So
And
sorry, say again.
And the purpose of adding the diazo to the dual cure, what's that doing? Is that slowing down the exposure times, or is it
When
making
you add
it
the
more resistant?
The diazo will give you a couple of different things. It will give you the strength against water-based. It gives you the ability to have a much better definition, so you can start controlling the latitude of exposure. If you run, say, a pure photopolymer, like I think you did with your previous one.
I did, yeah.
And then we run the plus act with a diazo. The exposure time was sort of maybe 3 times longer. But,
Yeah, they increased.
yeah, but
But so did the
was
detail.
so much better. So yeah,
Yeah,
realistically,
it really
that's
did
what the
make a
diazer
difference.
will do for the dual cure.
Right.
And then you've got the
cool.
SBQ, the photopolymer system, which comes as a pre-sensitized product. Again,
Called an all-in-one.
yeah, I mean, some of the emulsions are very, very good for, say plastisols, water-based, some discharge. But again, what I tend to do is, we have the emulsions like the pure photopolymers that you can use on its own, or you can then add an additional sensitizer to give you that extra resilience against the discharge when you're printing on.
Doesn't that make it a dual cure?
No, because it comes as a standalone. When you run a dual cure, if you coat a dual cure on its own with no sensitizer in and try and expose it, it'll fall off. If you run a pure polymer on its own and expose it, it will give you a stencil. If you then add the diazo into it, it will give you that strength you need, and it slows again down, give you a bit more control.
So, what are your brand names for those 3 then that Pyramid do? Because we have to put a little pyramid sort of in there.
Well, obviously we've got the brand.
So, do you do a diazo?
No.
And number one. What's the correct pronunciation? Is it diazo? Diazo?
I call it diazo. Someone will probably correct us out there, but I call it diazo.
I've always called it diazo.
Yeah, same as that. And I think diazo it's a benzene. Oh, what's a benzene diazinium or something like that? Diazonium or something.
Yeah, diazo's in the name of the chemical, isn't it?
Yeah, the benzene part. Yeah, so
sounds like
I'm going with
club
diazo.
draw.
And then there is, as we said earlier, you hear the triple cure now. Have you heard of triple cure emulsions?
I know. No, I can't say I have.
No,
It's a new one.
I knew there was a third one, but I always get confused with the photopolymer with diazo. Is that a triple cure?
Not to my understanding. My understanding, a triple cure is you buy a dual cure emulsion. So you've got part sensitizing already. Then you add your sensitizer, and then when you post harden it, I think that's your triple cure.
Now post hardening. You skipped about 4 questions there, you cheeky get. You did quite well. So that's the end of the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. We've run out of all 10 questions that we had there, all answered in one go.
That's my take. That's my take on the free emulsions out there.
I had it down as 2. I had it as diazo, and I have diazo in my head as an old school, long latitude, long exposure with long slow exposure with good detail and high resistance to chemicals.
Quite thick as well. I think back in the day as well, if you remember.
But has a life, has a pot life.
Yeah. Generally,
Dual cure
4 to 6 weeks.
I had dual cure down as being you can add a sensitizer and get a longer pot life, and you have shorter exposure times. And then SBQ photopolymers I have as an all-in-one solution, which some of the brands you can add a diazo to get another sort of 30% exposure time.
Better definition.
To get a little bit more detail. Yeah.
Basically that.
That was my understanding, but do you know what? That's complete guesswork. Nobody's actually sat me down and told me.
No, you're spot on.
So.
I mean, it's just the way you describe it, isn't it? I mean, everyone's different. I'm a stencil maker in a suit. I'm not the intelligent in the world, but I've got a lot of common sense. So.
No, I think that pretty much puts everything into its little category there. In that, you've got old school diazo, you've got the mid dual cure, which I can't seem. Are you on? So what's the brand names then for your diazo?
So if we look at, we don't have the diazo anymore. We're literally running dual cures and polymers.
It's gone, hasn't it?
I don't need it. I don't. I've got really good dual cures in Triton. Plus Aqua. Again, Plus Aqua, you can run as a polymer. So you can run that as a standalone emulsion without putting diazo in. But it's very quick. It's pretty.
Right.
And the reason I like to incorporate diazo is just to control it a little bit, give you that. Everyone's trying to hold like 2-3% dot. And that tries to help you a little bit, by diazo. If it's polymer on its own, 2 seconds exposure.
Yeah, wow. That diazo makes a difference.
Yeah.
And what's the photopolymer? What's the SBQ photopolymer?
So we have the Plus Lava, which we run as a standalone, and we put diazo in it. We also have some Chromoline ranges. So we have the Chromoline. We have the
I like Chromoline. I come across that a lot in the US.
Yeah.
Chromolime with an M.
It's a lovely product.
And do you do Hydro X as well then?
Yeah, we do the Hydro X.
Hydro X is very good on a laser, I'm finding right now.
And we're just about to bring in the Hydro X Red, which is the new version.
Yeah.
So that's again a great product. So I think when I look at the Plus Lava, I think that takes a lot to be beaten at. If I'm being honest with you, and you've seen that yourself, in customers all over now that are running discharge and water-based and plus cells. Plus Lava is really nailing it very, very well.
I think that's the biggest
Nobody wants
plus
to
point,
run
plus
different
point for me.
types.
It's so versatile.
No.
Yeah, because nobody wants to have a
You're
rack
lagging
of
there,
screens
Tony.
coated in water-based. Yeah, I know, a little bit.
It's those
Nobody
doubles
wants to have a
after
rack
the-
of screens
the doubles.
coated in water-based,
Yeah,
a rack of screens coated in plastisol, and a rack of screens coated in dual cure. So
That was back in the day, wasn't it?
yeah,
It's
you
run
used
two
to have
emulsions of discharge or plastic.
colour-coded red, blue, and green. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, totally. So,
Wow.
but yeah, so we've got the good core of emulsions. We are working on some other new products, which I can't obviously mention at the moment. But we're always trying to, not reinvent the wheel, but
Why not?
Let's make it go a bit faster. Yeah, let's see what else we can bring to the table and say that this is the best product out there. So
Yeah. So the new products, you're not trying to fix a problem that exists. You're just
no, we're trying to
putting
make things
time
better.
down.
We're trying to make things better because I think there is in every emulsion they've still got a little quirk somewhere, and we're trying to sort of take out those quirks and say, right, this is a perfect solution in every way. Because from if I go to 10 different shops to do a demonstration, I will find that 9 of them will work exactly the same perfectly. One shop it will not work and make me look a complete idiot.
Yeah, the exact same parameters,
Totally.
almost the exact same
Totally.
setting, and for some reason it just don't want to work.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we were trying to make this fail safe. It works in everywhere. So yeah.
Welcome
So
to
let's
screen
do
print.
Yeah, cool.
That's what happens.
Yeah, screen print for some reason it must be like I think some people just have a little curse, and no matter what you do, you tick every single box, and it just decides not to work
Oh, totally.
as it should.
Yeah, totally. Sometimes I think I shouldn't go out of bed.
Yeah. Sometimes you better just stay in at home, aren't you?
Yeah.
So when it comes, so we discussed the 3 types of emulsions. Let's move on to exposing. Do you have a preferred method exposing? From what I understand, we've actually got quite an array of exposing options right now. We've got the LED, metal halide, the UV bulbs, etc. Or we've got just direct sunlight, if you want to go that far.
Piece of glass.
Have you got a preferred
piece of glass
method?
and a lamp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think personally, I think they all work as long as you've got the right density of artwork and you've got the right emulsion and the right contact, and you set your exposure time to be correct. They'll all work. You can expose in the sun, you can expose on LED, you can expose metal halide. I grew up on metal halide. That was the thing of the day.
Me too.
There seems to be a bit of a thing at the moment that metal halide is better. And I'm not so sure about this because LED is pretty shit hot, to be honest. I get some really good definition, and my emulsion is bulletproof right now. I can run that on water-based plastisol. I've not actually tried discharge, to be honest, but water-based and plastisol, I could run that all day long and it will not budge.
I think when you look back at metal halide, you have you switch a unit on, you have like a 10-15 minute warm up period for the bulb to sort of wake up and warm up and get to its correct temperature ready for usage. And I think you could see a lot of fluctuations if you set an exposure and you run those times when the bulb is cold, you run the times when it's hot, you can get the fluctuation. Right. Whereas with LED, as soon as you switch it on, it's exactly the same all day, every day. You don't get any fluctuation in those temperaments of the bulbs.
Yeah. Yeah, from what I understand, maybe you lose a couple of % in definition, but at the end of the day, the benefits of LED, the energy saving
itself, yeah,
the ease of use,
50 to 100,000 hours bulb life, which is massive.
Phenomenal.
Energy alone, I think it's about 80% saving in energy. And yeah, I mean, look, we helped develop and work with Kipax on their LED exposure unit. I think it's a great product. They've made horizontal tabletop to verticals, and so we've worked closely with them on that, and we're still again working with them to try and improve on those, because I think if you're a company of older technology where you're running back onto the old diazos, they're no good on LED, in my opinion.
No, because it's quite a narrow exposure band.
Yeah, they're too long.
Whereas
too long. You're running a diazo at 4, 5, 6 minutes. The LEDs want the fast polymers. They want the new technology. They want to run. And everyone says to me, I want to run it 10 seconds. I'm like, why? You can't wash it out in 10 seconds. Why expose it 10 seconds? You might as well expose it properly for a minute and then develop it in a minute or two, and then you've got a perfect stencil.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on post harden? Is it handy? Is it a good thing to do, or is it absolutely vital?
If I'm running water-based and discharge on a fairly long run, I will then post harden definitely inside of the screen for 3 times the exposure time of whatever mesh you've run. If I'm running long run plasticine,
that's a good tip. 3 times exposure time on the ink side.
On the ink side, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I tell people that because sometimes it's hard to turn the vacuum off sometimes on some exposure units.
Yeah. Right.
So if you're going to do it on the ink side, you've got to make sure that you haven't got the vacuum on.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah,
because otherwise it pushes the frame down.
But when you think about it, that's where the ink is sitting all the time. On the well in the
I agree with it, but the argument I had was somebody said to me, "What are you post hardening?" So I said, "Well, all of the emulsion that hasn't been hit with light."
Totally, yeah.
And they said, "Well, what were you developing then?" So what did you develop?
But is that
you washed away all the emulsion.
Idealistic?
But I think,
I mean, the guy's an asshole, but other than that, yeah.
Combat that by saying, at the end of the day, run a job side by side and don't post-cure one and post-cure one, and then see which one breaks down.
Proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, exactly.
It definitely helps.
A lot of things I say, you don't have to do it. I would recommend it for discharge and water space, sheerly because over the time of
I always do.
Yeah, doing these things with people, I always suggest.
I always do. But are we talking the difference between a partial cure and a full cure? Is that what we're saying then?
What do you mean?
So, if we don't expose it again on the ink side, is it only partially cured? But if we hit it with a big, massive dose of 3 times the light, is that fully cured? Is that what
to me, the squeegee side or the ink side is, because obviously what we try and determine is obviously when I'm doing an emulsion demonstration or setting up an emulsion, I'll work with my calculators and my step wedges over and over again to try and make sure that I'm determining that you get perfect through cure. And I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of
both sides,
getting the emulsion, getting the exposure up, get that light penetrating all the way through to the back of the screen. When you're gone, people do cut corners. People say, I'm not holding that 5% dot. Initially, what they'll do is drop their exposure time. And if they're then not getting this post-cure at the back, and that's a little bit scummy, if you don't post-cure, that's going to re-wet, start breaking down pretty quickly. So I say that post-cure, because people do cut corners, as we all do, post-cure it on the back surface 3 times the amount of exposure time. So if you're doing a 43T at 60 seconds, post-cure at 180. If you're doing a 120 at 10 seconds, do it at 30.
Yeah, I suppose if you look at it this way, if you imagine your stencil thickness, as soon as you expose, it's exposing like this. Yeah. If it's a 10-second exposure, and let's just say you get to 9A, it's about there, 10 seconds exposed. But that's only had a fraction of a second exposure time. Yeah. So then you can wash it out and you're getting good stencil definition, and technically it's exposed. So in it best as a failsafe, just to give
a little bit more,
top layer, the ink side, a nit of extra light.
There's a lot of things,
just for durability.
There's a lot of things I see as well, when I don't go to customers, and if they say they're getting an issue with certain things, I carry tools like moisture meters, and I will check. Somebody's coated the screen and it's been stacked in their cupboards. I will check the moisture, and if there's moisture in the screen, they've exposed that. Again, you're not going to hit that through cure, and you're going to get a weak stencil. Inkjet films is another thing. Inkjet films they have a UV inhibitor, so obviously they're stopping that UV light getting all the way through. And some films are thicker than others, so these things you need to take all into consideration when setting up exposures to make sure that we're making sure that's going all the way through. Otherwise, you are going to get premature breakdowns. First thing the customer says is, "Oh, this emulsion's crap." I mean, it's not. It's how you set it and how you work it and how you do it the best. Yeah.
That sort of brings back. So I've always had this theory and I've been told that this is totally wrong. When we're doing calculators, step tests, exposing, to use the like CCI do one. Do you use a CCI one?
We don't.
The step test. Remind me. I've got it. I've got one. Probably the Chromaline one, I guess. But anyway, a step test, and you can buy one, and it's pre-printed, and it's.
You're on about the 21 step guide.
That's the one.
Yep.
My argument has always been, yeah, but that's not the film I run. Surely it's better to produce my own step test on the film that I use and then do a step test so that I'm getting perfect replication of conditions that I'm going to use every day. What do you say to that? Nay or yay? Am I wrong?
I'd say no.
You can't print transparency. You
No.
can only print 100% opacity. So the films that are produced usually have a
filters as you're going
transparency
through.
overlay.
To give you an example, I went to a customer a couple of years ago, and I'd done all my step tests, and I was setting him up. He was buying a new LED from us. We set him up and everything, and I set my exposure times on a 90 mesh at 30 seconds. And this was with lava, 30 seconds, coated perfectly. We then put his films on, exposed to 30 seconds. I went to develop it, and the whole thing fell off, apart from all around the edge where his positive hadn't been.
Right.
Which made me go, okay, I need to look at this. So then I stepped up to a minute, and it still fell off. And in the end, it was 1:40 because the UV inhibitors in this film were just stopping this penetrating so much.
Wow.
But when
In the film
outside, my
itself,
step wedge
not
was
in the
saying to me, my step wedge was like on step 18 going, you're well overexposed here on my step on the outside, but in this area, it was because this film was inhibiting it. So yeah, really bizarre.
Yeah, that's interesting as well. That sort of proves a point.
Yeah.
Film isn't just film.
No.
Cheap film can be an
cheap
inhibitor.
film.
Wow, how interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess that's just for powder coating, because the inkjet soaks into
It's a polymer, I think,
I'm guessing that.
Yeah. So it just stops on the UV going through, which is, it's a learning curve for all of us. Because one minute you're thinking I'm doing a good demo, it's looking good, then it all falls off in front of your eyes, and you're looking an idiot. And the customer
I think
looking
somebody should invent I think we should have a post-exposure unit. Not your exposure unit, separately, like a vertical. And I was working in a place in the US. Yeah, well, a guy made one. So he'd bought on eBay 2 old sort of broken starlights. The M&R starlights were just banks with this sheet of LED.
Yeah.
And he'd made a wooden box, put them at either side, and he just slides it in, presses expose, and this light comes on for a minute, and then he pulls them back out again. Post-expose, he called it a post box.
Yeah.
It's like a post box. I quite like that idea, a post box. I like that.
Poster,
And I think somebody like Kippax are well capable of making this sort of like, right, because this is a light bath.
Yeah, they've got one called the Poster.
Post-it.
Wow.
Yeah, I like it.
Post-it.
Yeah, that's what we need. And then you're not blocking the developing process either. So you can have it as a separate process. It doesn't have to be in a dark room.
Tony, you've got a shitty connection, so you're hearing me and Dean talk like 10 seconds after we actually talk. So just try and pause a little bit.
It's the
Unless it's just me.
It's the doubles.
Right.
Oh my god. So is it not just as good to just chuck your screens outside for a bit in the sun?
You can do. I've got loads of customers that do it.
And that
saves electricity, saves energy. That's the cheapest way going, isn't it? So yeah, does the same thing.
I didn't expect to answer. I thought you were going to say no, it's not effective enough.
Yeah, but all my customers saying, well, you told me it was.
Yeah. Dear. Tony, you may speak. I give you permission.
Oh, cheers, buddy.
Give him 30 seconds.
So we'll go on to another one that I know is a bone of contention everywhere we go, and that is degreasing.
Yep.
Should we still be degreasing? So the reason for this question is, for me, I never skip degreasing, but lately, chemical companies have come out with cleaning chemicals, and they make the claim that degreaser is built in. You don't need a separate degreaser with our cleaning chemical. So, as someone who sells cleaning chemicals, which I think make that claim, should we still be degreasing, Dean?
I don't think the company we products sell make that claim. It's not our one.
In
I
alchemy?
always, no, they don't. They're not in the UK anyway.
No.
I can
What
give you
about,
examples
what about
of
your
some that
machine
do.
cleaner? What about your machine cleaner?
I recommend degreasing all the time. To me,
Yeah. I
you're
don't
throwing
think
a
it's something you
chemical.
can skip.
You're throwing a chemical. And I've heard that same thing where customers are saying to me, "Oh, this chemical I'm buying from such and such has got a built-in degreaser," and I'm like, "Not in a solvent, surely. How can you have a solvent and a degreasing agent combined? They're trying to do two different things." Haze removers, we will claim that the haze removers have got a sort of element of built-in degreasing agent in them, by the haze removers, but not the chemical itself, not the solvents.
Right, so it's not, you're not going to find an ink cleaner with a degreaser.
In my opinion,
but you
no.
might.
In my opinion, no. Other people may tell you differently, but in our cleaners, we'd always say we'd recommend, because look, you're taking the ink off, you're taking the stencil off, and then you're going to go over again with an ink cleaner if there's any little stain there. That's a solvent. If you've not washed that solvent off, there's surfactants in there that are going to be quite greasy.
Yeah.
So you do.
There's an argument that you're just watering down the product. So if it's dual purpose, if it does two jobs, if it's a dehazer and a degreaser in one, it's almost half of a job of each. Whereas you're better off just having a pot of dehazer, which will do a more effective job, and a pot of degreaser, which will.
In my opinion, yes, have them separate, because that way you're doing a thorough job. If all of a sudden you start getting breakdown on screens, where do you look? Have you degreased it? I ask that to customers all the time. Do you degrease your screens? A lot of customers don't, and they get away with it. If I'm honest with you, they get away with it.
Yeah,
I've heard
open
meshes
to me,
definitely.
Yeah,
I've heard printers say to me, and I don't agree with this. I degrease every time. Well, I need degreasers every time, but they'll maybe do it every handful of washes. So they'll use a screen so many times, and then every now and again they'll degrease it, which I don't agree with. But I hear printers say that all the time.
Yeah, my sort of theory is that if you get new meshes in, definitely degrease, because they're going to have all handprints over from being tensioned and dust and crap. So definitely degrease. Once you've reclaimed them, if you're using a haze remover, I don't think they need to degrease because it has got a built-in degreasing agent. If you don't use a haze remover, then my opinion would be to degrease prior to coating it.
How much of a stickler are you for a screen? How much of a stickler are you for a clean screen? If you see a silhouette of an image that you've printed and it's not actual ink, do you just let it slide? Is that good enough? Is that okay? Is that clean? Or like me, are you a little bit OCD about it? And until you've scrubbed the crap out of that image and it's absolutely gone.
I'm OCD everywhere. It's difficult because you don't want to see stains on the screen, because in my opinion, if you've got any stain on the screen, the next time you coat that, you're going to start locking that stain in. And I see it a lot with diazo stain, where again, going back to underexposure, where say a customer will underexpose a screen, they'll reclaim it. There is a haze of, say, whatever colour the emulsion is, like a light green or a red or in the background.
Yeah.
Then they'll coat it again and expose it. The minute they've done that and exposed it, you've locked it on.
So much there for life. Yeah.
It's going to be. And the more you do that, the worse it's going to get, because once you've locked it and you're recoating your screen, then you've got to try and penetrate that light back through again, as we said earlier. You've got some sort of semi-locked on product already. You're coating over the surface, and then we're trying to go, oh, is the light going through? Hence, So I like to say, get all screens clean, but we do know we live in a realistic world, and if you hold the screen up to light, you can see through it. There's no blockages, but there's a faint outline of an image. Yeah, just go with it. Coat it again, you'll be fine.
Sometimes there are inks that are they just want to dye the plastic, the
mesh,
the monofilament. Monofilament. And you can't do all about that.
No, that amazes me. I mean, I find that with water-based, it's
really, really problematic
massively.
for that.
Yeah. When you look at it, it's. I've had it drying in the screen as I'm trying to clean it. I'm like, what's going on? It's just literally drying in front of my eyes. So
I find
haven't done
it's
a lot of
always
what-
best to clean as quickly as possible. So it's
Yeah.
always, for me, I go to one particular place in the US who don't clean the water-based out the screens immediately. So it can be 48 hours until somebody approaches to clean that screen. And now it's
Wow.
really
Yeah.
hard work because it's not only is it dry and crusty, it's actually started to stain more. I have another customer who immediately cleans the screen as soon as it comes off the press and then adds degreaser before they've stripped it.
Really?
Okay.
Now,
Oh,
I don't know
wow.
what's in degreaser. Yeah, I don't know what's in degreaser because it is really just a soap, like a surfactant. So it's an anti-grease. It's a soap-like substance, but it doesn't remove. It prevents the ink from staining. So they basically rinse the ink off,
It's really wet.
de-tape, and then with the brush, just give it a whisk, give it a quick rinse with a soapy solution.
It leaves it on. Does he leave that on then?
No, rinses it.
Okay.
No, rinse it.
Maybe that's a good tip.
Yeah, I'll try that myself. Yeah, we're all looking for that magic product
It
that's going to say
works.
stop drying. Yeah.
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 I
I actually found a really good product. I found a good product that does that, but it's one of these American ones that you can only buy from one place in the UK, and I don't know, he's either in prison or wherever he is.
What colour is it, Tony?
It's an organic product that comes in like a wine box.
Oh yeah.
You know, sort of like a box with a bag in and that little tap on the front. And it's
Oh,
called
okay.
a water-based screen cleaner. And it's really, really good. I don't know what's in it. With it being an American product sold over here, you probably find that if you look into it, it's probably not legal to sell over here. But it does clean water-based really well.
Dear.
That's actually that company in the square box do make some nice products. They do make some nice products.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean.
I've probably got half of them on a shelf over
Probably
here.
have,
I don't
yeah.
use them anymore. But so, what's your application for washing and degreasing, etc.? What's your tool of choice? Because we've got brushes, we've got scrubber pads, and now famously we've got the magic sponges, which I'm not sure if you're aware
Which
of.
scared. No, you showed me. It scared me. I went
scrub,
to the
Danny.
demonstration with you, and you scrubbed smoking. I mean, the whole thing was smoking. Oh my God, what's the into the mesh? But it worked. I was like, okay, fair
It
enough.
works so well.
It's done the job. But yeah, that did scare me. I see those magic sponges a lot more nowadays. People use them everywhere.
Yeah, popular.
I'm
Seem
a
to be
fan,
super
I'm a
effective.
fan of a brush, a nice soft bristle brush in a bucket, mix up degreaser. It's where I started. It's I know it works. I'm getting into every little corner, every crevice. Leave it on for a couple of minutes and then rinse it down with a hose. Don't blast it with a pressure gun because all you do is going to make more foam, and then you're defeating the object really. So yeah.
Yeah, if you're using a power wash, you're just blasting. You're getting a lot of splashback as well.
Right.
So those greases, etc.,
Yeah.
splashing back onto your mesh. Tony, do you want to go with this one because this is your joke? I don't want to steal it.
We sort of covered it. We covered it a little bit, but yeah, is this the ghost remover? So what's the best? Is this the one you mean?
Yeah. You ready for this, Dean?
Yeah.
The
Hold on
ghost
to your
remover.
chair.
So
you
what
might
is?
fall off.
I know, yeah.
Why have you got
What is the
Annabelle
best
in?
ghost remover? Whatever it is outside that's cursing me. What is the best ghost remover now that Derek Akora's died?
Ooh. Oh God.
What's the best product you've come across to get rid of a ghost?
If I'm honest with you, what we've tried to look at doing now within our company is bringing out a better cleaning solvent to try and minimise the use of using the aggressive haze removers or the alkaline pastes because they damage mesh. They flatten the fibres down, they make it sort of smooth, and you get then issues with coatings again. So what we've done now is
Can you remember when we used to coat alkaline paste, apply it with a coating trough, leave it overnight, and then blast it the next day. Well, no, activate it
That's
then
the Haze
with
remover. That's the Haze remover.
A6.
Activate the Haze.
Yeah, you'd coat it on, let it crystallise, and then activate it next day with A6, was it?
Yeah, that's the Haze removers. Yeah, we still do that. Haze remover HV from Alpha. We've still got that, and we still recommend that application because, it's a product that doesn't really break your mesh as such. When you put the aggressive alkaline base on, which we have one, if you've got any split in that screen, bang, it's gone. As soon as you put that on, it sort of heats it up, bangs, off it goes. You kiss goodbye to your screen. It does, yeah. And realistically, we don't recommend leaving those sort of products on for more than 5 minutes because, again, they're just damaging your fibres on the mesh. So when every mesh,
I used to leave them overnight.
Say again.
I used to leave them overnight.
That's what I mean. With the Haze removers, you can. But with the alkaline paste, if you're using an aggressive product that cleans your ink off in a matter of minutes, you imagine the thread's got all these little fibres sticking off, which the emulsion's going to stick to really well. The aggressive paste flatten that thread. So, then you've got a silky smooth area, which you don't want because then the emulsion's not got anything to key really onto very well. So we're trying to look at it a different way in the sense of giving you a safer screen wash. And at the moment, we're working on a product called AquaWash 317, which we're finding you can dilute 2 parts water, 1 part solvent. And it's getting you to the situation where you've only got that very light stain that you spoke about earlier. Yeah. Very, very light stain. So then we can either say, do we just coat it, degrease it and coat it, or do we say, let's use a product like we have something called Quick Haze, which is, again, lower caustic, safer product.
Less aggressive,
less damaging to the mesh, and can be washed off in 15, 20 minutes. So that's the route we're looking at. But there is some great products out there. Some of my competitors have got some great products, and I quite like them. And I mean, well, am I missing a trick here? Do I need this? Do I need that? But I don't think we do.
No, I think if you can remove as much stain, as much
prior to the staining part,
that's better for everybody.
I think so.
It cuts down the reclaiming process.
Yeah.
So,
that's the aim.
And use it.
What have you seen out there, Tony?
So I hate the caustic stuff. The really aggressive stuff.
But it works.
I don't see people using HV as much. I advise new printers, new people into the industry to not use them because they just forget how aggressive they are. Yeah. And I sometimes have given the advice, live with the stain. If it's not blocking the mesh and it's only colouring the mesh, live with that stain for a couple of cycles and then remesh. Because it's not worth the health of the operator. It's that splashback. I was working with a guy and he's got goggles, ear protectors, breathing mask, full bodysuit, waterproofs, boots, gloves, a hat. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Is it like... It looks like Chernobyl, and all you're doing is rinsing the screen.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, I'm with you.
So anything that avoids that need for that much protective equipment, I'm all for that. And I'd rather have a slight haze on a screen and use some sort of surfactant, like a solvent, to wash it.
And exactly, that's what we've gone down with. The better surfactants, the better solvents, that will clean that ink away from the mesh. To me, it's much better, much safer, much quicker.
I think if you strip your press
when we are
and
doing that
immediately
mesh,
wash...
I am that 10 seconds behind that. I keep talking over top.
Go on, Tony, you'll crack on, mate.
So once the mesh is cleaned and we're all happy and we're all degreased and everything's happy and shiny in our little screen room, we come to coating.
Yep.
What's the best coating method, Mr. Smith? Are we on a 1-on-1? Are we on a 2-on-1? And why does it matter?
It's preference, isn't it? That is a preference question because, I go to many shops, as you do, and so many people coat differently, 2 and 2, 2 and 1, 1 and 1. If I'm running a shop tomorrow, 77 T mesh, 90 T mesh, 120 and above, I would always go 1 and 1 because I want to sort of have a stable 4 to 5, 6 micron build above the mesh, EOM. If I'm doing 62 Ts, 55s, 43s, I will look at possibly a 2-on-1, depending, again, I will try and evaluate if the customer's using a lot of discharge or water-based squeegee pressures, type of squeegee they're running, as you know, Tony, they're going to run an 85 on a 43, they're going to demolish.
It's a favourite that I've had for the last 5 years. It's never let me down.
But this is it. And so I will look at, so everything above, say 77 above, I would do 1-on-1. In the middle range, down to 43s, I do generally a 2-on-1. And then I'm looking at the 32s and everything else and say, right, okay, let me see if I can get away with a 2-and-2, just to give me that stability.
Exactly what I would do.
Yeah, knowing I've got encapsulation around the mesh, I've got strength in it, and as long as I've got my through cure, I'm not going to get break.
So that's purely factoring breakdown into the equation. It's got nothing to do with ink thickness. It's just pure.
I like to try and
give a bit more prone to break.
I like to try and give obviously the coarser meshes give you the higher build. It's difficult to try and achieve that unless you change then the edge from a rounded edge to a sharp edge.
Oh, we don't talk about that round edge.
So I was with a customer yesterday.
You had to go there, didn't you? You had to go there, honestly. You had to go there. There's only one edge to a coating trough, that's the sharp edge.
Oh, okay.
There aren't two edges, there's just one edge.
Would you argue that?
I'm a fan of the rounded edge on the finer meshes.
Wow.
1 mil radius, yeah.
On finer meshes?
Yeah. And then I go for... yesterday I was with a customer who... It sort of opened my eyes a little bit, because what he done, he was coating some coarser meshes, and he coated a 2-on-1 with a sharp blade on the coarser meshes, and it gave him like a 6 to 7 micron build above the mesh, and it was amazing. The stencil quality that came out of it was superb. So he didn't have that big clunky thickness of 2-on-1 where you're using a thicker radius. So it opened my eyes a little bit to a sharper blade on the coarser mesh. Yeah,
that's what I do. I'm a 2-on-1 sharp blade on everything below 62.
Yeah,
I'm on 1-on-1 everything above that, and the 32s and 24s I'm a 2-and-2.
Yeah, okay.
But always with a sharp edge. Okay. I think that's just. I get too much emulsion on something that's not a sharp blade.
Yes, I mean, yesterday we were doing
my camera's playing up, so sorry.
So yesterday we were doing a 1-on-1 on the finer meshes, with a rounded edge, and the 4 to 5 micron above the mesh, and the dot shape was amazing. The image was amazing. When we tried it on the sharper edge, I felt that the image quality wasn't quite as good, wasn't quite as sharp on the edges. So that's my preference.
I'll have to experiment with that. This might be
it's preference, isn't it?
Yeah,
there's no right or wrong.
No.
It's just preference.
Every day's a school day, and I get a customer. This customer showed me this yesterday, and I was like, "Wow, okay, that works really well." And I will take that forward to another customer and say, "Look, I reckon on the 62s, try this because."
Where it'll fail miserably, the rules.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Speaking of failing miserably, easy for me to say, isn't it? What's the biggest error you see in print shops that you visit?
Careful now.
Underexposure and staining. Underexposure.
Well, you know what? We're all scared, aren't we? We're frightened to death
of losing detail.
The image of the image blocking in and not being able to wash it out. So that's what we're scared of.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we I know it needs 60 seconds, but I'm going to do it for 50 because I don't want to lose any detail.
Totally. But the problem is, I find with that, again, going back to nailing your exposure and right down, because you've got your highlight and the shadow, and you'll undercut your exposure to hold the 2-3% dot. That really, as we know, when you put it on a garment, you're not going to really see it. But on the flip side, when you start getting up to your 75, 80, 85%, you're then underexposing that, so then you're starting to lose definition, and you start creating 75% then becomes you're 85%, so you're getting a solid area. So you're losing in the other end. That's why it's really important, from my point of view, to get that perfect dialed-in stencil.
I think it goes back to that important lesson of less is more. And when you're exposing, even though it's sort of intuitive to, I want to hold more dots, bring it back a bit, you can go too far. And actually, when you bring it back a bit, you start to lose detail again. There's a sweet spot.
Well,
dialing in the exposure times is the sweet
and
spot.
There's areas of the artwork that, on this computer that people do now, where you can adjust all your curves on there to change that. So you can make sure that you bring in the total ranges to get that corrected. But I think people cut the corner. We've got a film, it's already done. Oh, it's not coming out. It may be a little bit grey. The light's getting around it. Underexpose it. And of course, you get underexposure, you get bad staining, you get breakdown.
I've been printing 12 years now, and I've only just discovered that there is actually a curve. So let's just say you've got a 5% dot. You can bump that up to 10% if you can only hold that 10%. So that bottom range of dots, just bump it up a notch. Yeah. So that probably skips quite a lot. It took me 10 years to work it out. So
and it does, it works. Yeah. When you do that, I'm not into that side of things, but when you do that, and you work with the artists and they do this, then you are getting a full range of your tone that you need at the correct exposure.
It's called the calibration curve. What the calibration curve does, it looks at the artwork, and you've drawn it at 5% tone or 95% tone. And what it does is it runs a substitution routine. So basically, it says, right, what do I see? I see 10%. Leave it. I see 5%. Right, make it 10, or make it 7, or make it 6, and you run that curve so that instead of having to change your original artwork, you're only actually changing the output value. So the little routine's constantly looking for a tonal value between 1 and 7, and when it finds it, it boosts it for you, and it changes it to 8 and 9. And the same with the other way. If you see a 95, don't try and make it 95, make it 90. I'm happy with that. And so that means you don't have to go back into your Photoshop file and change your Photoshop file. You can keep your Photoshop file the same, and these calibrations, these changes are made within the output device.
There's another podcast. Who do you know that does that?
The calibration curve, there's lots of people will do you a calibration curve, but your counterpart in the US will do that with a densitometer.
Which he will take back in the day on the graphics print. When I was in the graphics side of things, you always put a densitometer.
Same thing. Yeah, same thing. So you'll basically say, right, this is a 10% dot. Make it on a screen, print it on a piece of white flat stock or white T-shirt, and then take a densitometer and measure it and say, right, what is it really? The densitometer will say, well, actually, it was 10% on the computer screen, but now it's only 6%. So what you need to do is you need to boost your 10% by 4 to make it what you want. And then vice versa with the reverse tones. Yeah,
we used to do that back in the day on the graphics when you're doing the 4-colour process sets and how much base.
It's come back. Yeah. There's a lot of people doing it now with a single colour black print onto a white T-shirt. And I'll tell you where it hits. It's with the laser units.
Okay.
Because they're so hard to calibrate because you don't see anything in the middle.
Yeah.
So you can't compare the film and go, that looks like a 10%, because you don't see anything until the screen's made. Mm-hmm. So we're tending to do the calibration post-print after we've printed, not after we've printed the films.
Okay. It's good. I'll be interested to see that.
Yeah.
What is your thoughts on direct-to-screen technology? Are you a fan of old-fashioned film, or do you think the way to go is direct-to-screen?
Rubylith.
hand cut. You can't beat the good old image setters from back in the day, can you? I mean, they produced some amazing detail, didn't they? Elliptical dots, the whole lot. It was just phenomenal.
I got shot down from this conversation.
Thermal printer, though, wasn't it? So it used heat. That was the only downside to it. It could shrink film.
The inkjets, you look at the inkjets, they don't produce as good as that, do they? In my opinion.
No, because you get spread.
Yeah, you look at the dot and it's more like a cloud than a dot. The new technology, I mean, I think it's quite exciting, if I'm honest with you. I think it's interesting to see where it's going to go, what it's going to bring. I think it challenges printers then to say, hold on, I've got this machine here that can produce me almost 100 lines per inch. Can I print it?
Yeah. Is it the technology might be us? We might not be able to live with the technology.
We're the limiting factor, 100%.
I mean, even film outputs at quite a high DPI.
So what are you running on yours?
1220.
Mine will be 1220. Yeah.
Yeah, we looked at it when I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, 1220. I mean, there's a limit to what I can physically print on a shirt.
Yeah.
I guess it's not 1220, is it? So.
Yeah, but when you look at sort of the other parts of the industry, like say the ceramic industry, these guys are producing 133 dots per inch screen printing.
Yeah.
I
mean, circuitry and
it's amazing.
Industries we don't think about.
No,
unbelievable.
It's phenomenal when you see what they do. And
banknotes.
Yeah, they're using capillary films, they're using emulsions, and they are using some of them using direct laser systems to produce this now. But before that, it was image set films.
Wow,
that's fine.
Have you had?
And that's with your bone china cup, and you're looking at it, and it's also looking at it going. It's amazing to look at. It's that close.
There's still some pottery printers left.
Yeah, there is.
Is it Derby?
Stoke-on-Trent.
Stoke-on-Trent. Yeah, I've been to a couple of places there where they're still using that. I mean, some of them have gone to pad printing, but they still make a cliche, but it is still a method of decorating.
Oh, it's amazing. Ceramics. Yeah, it's great to see that level of detail.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Image set is still about?
Few and far between now, aren't they? Really?
No,
they don't get made.
So ASColour is ASColour, who we've all heard of, started life as Oyo.
Yeah.
And Oyo were the image setters. So you would buy an Oyo image setter, and all of the software like Screen Maker and Film Maker, we used to go into outputting through like an Oyo device, which was a thermal head image setter. And then they slowly transferred into ASColour technologies. So where they'd print directly onto the mesh. They had a little bit in the middle that we don't talk about, which was the Reso.
Was that the roll of laser? Was that the roll of thermal thing? Yeah.
Yeah, it was thermal print. GoCo Pro is where it is
that
now.
Thing.
Yeah.
God, I used to get hounded by that account.
They used that thermal technology to try and print the emulsion. And strangely, we've come full circle. We've still got a company now trying to print the emulsion with the D2M. We had Dave Roper on here on this podcast talking about it, and how it's going well. And it's ASColour have adapted that technology in the US. They're selling it in the US. Dave Roper's selling it in the UK.
Is it working?
It's working. Reclaim's a bitch. You can't chemically reclaim, you forcibly reclaim. And I'm not a fan of using high pressure on new mesh. It just destroys the tension. But I also, we're talking about a very small area of our industry. I work with industry who don't reclaim any screens at all. We just cut them out because it's all built in. Famously in Jordan, when I went there, the first thing I said was, "Where's your jet wash?" And I said, "We don't have one." Well, why not?
Rip it out.
We got a Stanley knife. We just cut it out when we're done, and we make another one. We stretch our own screens. We cut our own screens. We make our own screens. We want a new screen. We just make it again. Yeah. Why would we keep a screen?
Can we not achieve the same thing with capillary film? When at a certain point, do you think we can get capillary film at an affordable price that rather than coating, etc., it's just easier to? No,
I think if anything, the capillary film prices are going to go up even more. The manufacturing of film is so much more expensive than emulsion. Effectively, it is emulsion, but you are coating it onto a polyester carrier.
But then somebody's got to squeeze it out. Yeah.
It's a shame. I like that idea.
I'd love to see that. I was in a pen factory, and the pen screens are so tiny that you don't coat them because you can't get a coater in there. You just cut a piece of capillary film out, stick it on, and it's done. And you do like 10 at a time. It's so easy. And that got me thinking, what could we do that for T-shirts. Surely, if you get the price down, that's got to be easier than trying to guess the EOM of a certain sharp side of a squeegee.
Well, we used to,
you can
we used to have a
control
lot in CD. Compact disc printers used to do it. 150 dots per inch. I mean, you're running a 15 micron film on a 150.
Now you've got to explain to our younger viewers what a CD is.
It's the thing you see hanging in the tree nowadays with a bit of string going around.
A wind chime,
although
Before Spotify.
vinyl coming back and tapes coming back on. I saw some tape being printed in one.
No, it's
Oh,
not.
God, I hope not.
Yeah.
Everything goes full circle.
That means the pencil's going to come back to
That's it,
retension.
to rewind it. Oh, that's brilliant back in the day when you're playing your favourite song and it goes, pull it out.
Just as you've taped it off at Radio 1 Top 40 as well.
On a Sunday night. Yeah.
I once got expelled from school because somebody we had a classroom, and at dinner time we was all allowed to stay in this classroom and we could put music on, and people would bring in a tape.
Ooh,
zooming in.
Hello.
Hey, what did you do? Did you
back.
go like that then?
It's Annabelle.
How did I do that?
See if mine do it.
Right, I've distracted myself. Hang on, let me unzoom myself. There we go. So, so people were bringing tapes, and somebody put a tape in, and as tapes used to do, I remember tapes, believe it or not. Every now and again, they'd sort of jam, and it'd all unravel, chew up. And this lass, a tape, she went and told the headmaster that it was me, but I ruined it. I got kicked out of school for that, and I'll never forget it. And it wasn't me. And she just flat out lied to the headmaster, and I swore down. And they just took her word for it. 2 weeks out of school for that.
A week?
That's what I mean.
2.
You look then, you had tapes, you had DVDs, didn't you? Bloody hell. I mean, not DVDs,
Laserdisc.
VHS back in the day, wasn't it?
VHS and Betamax,
Yeah.
Laserdisc. Don't even get me going.
Yeah.
Turning into an old man's podcast.
So okay, we can't achieve a controllable micron EOM with capillary film affordably. We can do it, but really every day, practically, it's not practical or affordable. So does that brings us on to auto coaters?
Yeah.
Is that the way forward? Is that the only realistic way that we can get a precise EOM every single time?
Yes. Sorry, did I jump in then?
No, I agree with Tony. Yes, I mean I'm a fan of auto coaters by far.
Right.
It takes away
A variable, yeah.
a variable. Yeah, I mean you still can get variables where, with our emulsions again, going back to our emulsions, we have them with a sachet sensitizer, so you're not putting water in. So when you're mixing direct, and the reason for that is you get no water evaporation out. And, you've got someone who's got a bottle, say, half this size, and one person puts that much, the next person puts that much. All of a sudden, your viscosity of your emulsion's changed. And your coating and your EOM is like, it's not like it was last week. So,
I did wonder why your emulsion specifically, you didn't add water into the diazo.
control, yeah.
I've put water in that sachet before.
Have you?
Get out, Tony. Get out.
That explains a lot.
You need to learn to read the instructions.
But yeah, no, I'm a fan of coaters. I think they're great. I think they're really great because you can adjust your pressures, you can adjust your speeds, and it's going to give you consistency from morning till night. If you've got 200 screens, 300 screens to coat a day, that poor person coating those screens, after 20, 30 screens, it's like, you're going to change. It's going to change. So yeah, all the way, auto coat to me, definitely.
Auto coat. So auto coat, a big massive tick.
Yeah.
What about auto reclaim? No, sorry, not auto reclaim. Sorry, auto washing out the image. Tell me the word. Developer. Auto developer. Big fan. Unnecessary. A lot of money for now.
It's a 25 grand jet wash, but I think it's great because it's unattended.
Consistency again, isn't it? It's consistency of pressure.
Yeah.
Again, an operator is tended to use. They've got the pressure gun not coming out, and I do use a bit of pressure. I'm not going to lie. But sometimes you'll see them go right up against the image, and all of a sudden you see a band go through it where they've just damaged it. So with auto pressure,
Yeah, the dots end up on the light at the
that's
back.
it, yeah. Auto washes, yeah. I mean, again, I think automation in general is a great thing. I think
Remove those variables.
Yeah.
For me, it's about removing variables and making it unattended.
Yeah.
So the screen washing, the screen coating, and the screen developing.
Yeah.
If we can make that a non-skill, so de-skill it, and really make it so that I can take anybody from any other department.
Yep.
I can take an embroidery girl and say, right, you are reclaiming screens today.
Yeah.
Oh, do I have to put all the noddy suit on? No,
just stand there.
put them in this end. Take them out this end.
Yeah.
You're developing screens. Oh, I don't know what to look for. You don't need to. Put them in this end. Take them out this end.
Yeah.
So I love automation for
totally.
that. For that main reason,
Yeah.
it takes away the variables and it de-skills.
When you go back into the graphics sector, a few years back, and I think still some companies in Europe have them now. Is they would have massive inline machine systems where a screen would be fed into a wash system. It would then be fed into a dryer. It would then be fed into an auto coater. There's a company in the UK in textiles got one, who very much into the transfer market. They've got a massive system, and
CST do it, don't they? I think.
they do, yeah. It feeds into then from your coater into another dryer, and then from the dryer into your exposing system where it's imaging directly. Then it comes into the developer at the end, washes out, and it's dried, and then the guy just pulls it off and puts it in the machine and prints.
It's the ultimate print shop goal of putting a dirty screen in one end and it coming out the other, cleaned, reclaimed, coated, developed, and ready to use.
Hi.
There we go, look.
Ah.
Little boy. Sure. I'm just going to take him in,
What's
Rob,
he
in a
called?
second. I'll take him in for a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, come here.
It's not the first time we've been gate crashed by a dog, is it, Danny?
No, it's common practice, isn't it?
Yeah. As long as that door don't open over there, I'm all right.
Yeah, you'll get gate crashed by Annabelle in a minute. Chucky will appear behind you with a knife.
One of them were a different colour, though. That's what I don't get. One of them were green.
All right, I thought you were going to say something else then. Something slightly
No,
racist.
it was definitely green.
Gollywogs
I-
out on the shelf.
Robertson's jam. Oh, God, no.
Oh, I was trying to sell a load of them on eBay. It didn't go down
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Can't
My
understand it.
ex-girlfriend had a garage full.
Gollywogs.
Yeah, like little porcelain gollywogs. And each one had like a dip off. It's that. Every time I do that.
You've got actions, like my actions when I go, and mine's turned off.
Bloody thing. So we've done an hour 20, so let's get close to wrapping up because poor Dean.
Yeah, we'll
probably
wrap this
starving.
up now. I'm starving.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. End on.
Top three
Welcome
myths.
Yeah, let's end on top 3 myths.
Sorry, gents.
Don't you worry, mate. Oh, nearly knocked me bottle over.
Normally, Danny goes for a wee about this point anyway, so you're doing all right.
Well, I'm going to do another re-entry then. I didn't.
Shabba.
It didn't play.
Oh!
Oh, the speaker's gone off. Bugger.
There was a fart that count, wasn't there?
It's the fault. I'll get it going for next time. Yeah, sorry about
So I think we've had a superb discussion. What we're going to do is we've been really gentle and easy on you, so we're going to have 60 seconds of pressure on you now. So you've got 60 seconds, that's all, to give us the top 3 lies, the top 3 myths that need to be removed in stencil making and screen cleaning.
I don't know any.
So, you ready?
I don't know. Let me think. Top 3.
Just the top 3 lies that you hear all the time about stencil making from your competitors, from other people that are trying to sell chemicals, all these things that you keep hearing everywhere you go.
Okay. First one. Yes, it
Yeah.
can go down the drain.
Oh, very good.
Fuck, that's me as well.
Well, that's a
Yes,
relief
it
to
can
hear
go
for me,
down.
anyway.
I was at a place 2 weeks ago which stored every tiny little bit of waste in a 1,000-litre CBC thing because they said it couldn't go down the drain, and I'm stood there going, "It can go down the drain." So I'll have to rethink that one.
I do hear it a lot.
I love that one.
I do hear it when people say, "Oh, yeah, they said it can go down the drain." I'm looking at it, and it's got a dead tree and a dead fish on it, and I'm like, I wouldn't put it down the drain. You know, we have safer chemistry that can effectively go to drain in minimal quantities. So it's all about how much you use, what you use. Yeah, so I do hear that a lot. Yes, it can go down the drain.
Okay, we'll take that for screen cleaning. We want one now for stencil making.
Stencil making.
Making a screen. Somebody says to you the whole time.
I do hear that they say to me that my supplier told me, no, this won't break down.
Yeah, this will hold up to water based. Yeah, this will never break down. Yeah,
good luck with that.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take those two. Yeah, it can go down the drain, and no, it definitely won't break down. We'll leave it at those two. We won't push it too far on 3.
What was the third one going to be about?
I think we went. We only have stencil making and screen cleaning, so you had to pick one.
Okay.
I'm looking at me notes, and that's all I've got now. So I've got notes this time. So all that remains to be said now is massive big thank you to you, Dean, for coming on the Chippy Tea podcast.
Sorry.
I think it's.
I'm going to get this ready before I go. You know what I mean? I've got to get ready before I go. Before I sign out.
So yeah, it has been a superb. I think it's been really informative. It's answered a lot of questions that I had on emulsion, especially, and on chemicals. Thank you very much for being involved.
In my opinion, so many people will find so many different avenues when you're in one shop to another shop. As you know, you see so many different things. You think that's a top little tip, or that's a great advantage, and we're always learning. What I'm saying today,
absolutely,
it won't work for everybody, and
no,
if they want to give me a ring and invite me in to come and demonstrate products, great, please do so. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, you got about 10 seconds to give the obligatory plug.
Yeah, give us a call anytime you like.
That is top. Yeah, so we will wrap this episode up.
That's your ringtone.
I'll do an Aquaman next.
Is that the bleaching thing, Danny? No, that's different, isn't it?
No. Don't go there.
Yeah, I'm not going down that road.
No. So, all that remains to be said is thank you very much for joining us. If you do like and you enjoy listening to 3 old men carp on about all the sort of crap about VHS and winding videotapes back, then like, subscribe, click the comment button, get involved, and we would love to hear from you. But for now, you have been listening to me, Tony P from Palm Print.
Danny D, Flipper Sweet, Print Co. Nearly forgot then.
And me, Dean.
And?
AKA Mr. Lock.
Who made the shirt? Who did the shirt for you?
Me.
You got to give a shout out. You made the shirt.
I just want to
Don't tell me you've got a cricket machine.
No, it's just a little vinyl pressing. I bought one because when we back in the day we was testing films. Going back to what you said earlier about films you can
put in rubylith.
Yeah, so we were looking at cutting images and bits and pieces. So we sort of just done a load of testing on it and just to see. Again, for the smaller area, the one
self-adhesive vinyl.
Yeah,
I know quite a few little home printers that use self-adhesive vinyl instead of all those chemicals that you've got to play about with that you can't wash down the drain, apparently.
So anyway, it's been very, very enjoyable, guys. Thanks very much for having me on. Much appreciated.
All right, thanks a lot. All that's to be left to be said, and you have to say this, even though we know you are below the line. Okay, there is a line. We have a pub and a bus. You have a pab and a bass. So, unfortunately, you have to say, I'll see thee.
I'll see thee.
Oh,
hey, that was really good.
That was perfect, yeah.
Best one yet.
All right, we'll see you later.
Take care.
I'll see thee.
Bye-bye.
She don't agree with me. I don't want lobster thermidor with raspberry Kool-Aid. It's Friday night, I'm within me rights. I want to